Nigel Cecil, calling things out as you like it, especially for his fair-minded friends.
Hello, Chugabouties. Thank you for joining me, moi, Nigel Cecil, entertainment entrepreneur, and of course, it's Shrove Tuesday, Pancake Tuesday. So in this particular video, we're bound to ask, who is going to get their pancakes tossed today? Is it going to be Equity, or is it going to be, should I have a go, Hillary? Here we go. Oh, damn it, is it going to be Spotlight? Now, why am I asking that question about tossing pancakes and bringing in Equity and Spotlight? Well, it's because Equity have demanded that Spotlight justify its current membership rates or risk facing class action brought by Equity in the High Court. Now, Spotlight, the home of casting, and we refer to aims, objects and outcomes. What are Equity's aims, objects and outcomes? Now, they've come up with a wonderful phrase for this action, and I have to say that the General Secretary of Equity, Paul Fleming, is very good at coming up with campaign phrases. The charges demanded by Spotlight are a tax on hope. It's an absolutely wonderful overarching phrase, having to pay to go into a casting directory in order to get work. It's a tax on hope. Well, of course it is. The whole of show business, it's more or less a tax on hope when you've got somewhat 80% of Equity members out of work, looking for work. What about students who've never had work joining Equity? Isn't that a tax on hope? Hoping that by joining Equity, it gives you credibility to get some work. Oh, and what about other taxes on hope? Self-taping. Do actors and variety artists self-tape and get paid for it? It's a tax on hope. What about attending auditions? Well, the first call certainly is a tax on hope, especially when you travel at your own expense from the north of England down to where invariably casting sessions are held. A tax on hope. Your own pictures, your promotion. A tax on hope. So why this one? Well, this is where the curiosity comes in, because one looks at the aims, the objects and the outcomes. What is Equity's aim? Well, to get some concession for Equity members. But why Equity members? Because Equity has some 40-odd thousand members, but Spotlight has some 60-70-odd thousand members. So in that context, well, if Equity gets a deal, what are the others going to expect who are members of Spotlight? And indeed, it all started when there was this 3-tier system of membership, and Spotlight withdrew it. But you see, Spotlight back in 2021, Hillary, yes, merged or was acquired, I love that word, to be acquired, Hillary, by Talent Systems, a global organisation. So that opened the door to Spotlight to also be associated with a global organisation, so that those in the casting directory were seen even more internationally. Now, why doesn't Equity do something like that, you see? And here's the question, a puzzle really, conspiracy theory, no, we better mention it, you see. Back in 2003, when the government brought in the law restricting workers being charged to go in any sort of directory, that fell into the lap of the employers. You want them, you pay for it. Very good idea. But Equity and others campaigned for an exemption for Spotlight. So they said, no, Spotlight is so necessary for our members that we need an exemption. And an exemption was granted in 2003. Well, that being so, what's changed? Well, you could say, well, of course, it's now charging more, but everything's gone up. So one looks, and my fair-minded friends have said, Nigel, is there some conspiracy theory? But it's interesting that we've become involved in this situation, isn't it? Because when one looks at the main players, Paul Fleming, the fairly new, a couple of years ago, General Secretary of Equity, well, they were originally worked their way through the equity ranks up to the heights of, I think it was West End organiser. And at the same time, also, well, another person called Matt Hurd, well, they'd worked their way up through the ranks of equity over 17 years to become Assistant General Secretary, Head of Media and Communications. And membership, was it? Well, you know what I mean, but Assistant General Secretary anyway. So one would have thought, and I certainly know from my fair-minded friends looking at social media, that Matt is in close contact and considers many actors and entertainers as their personal friends. So when it comes to Spotlight doing something, because Matt left Equity to become managing director of Spotlight a few years ago. So you've now got two organisations, Equity, with a member of staff who was a member of staff when Matt Hood was Assistant General Secretary, who's now General Secretary, Paul Fleming. It's like a Gilbert and Sullivan opera, this, isn't it? Yes. And now Matt Hood, who has been fully ingrained, well, you know what I mean, in the entertainment business. One would have thought Matt knows exactly what professional actors and entertainers want. So why have we got into this situation? Especially threatening a class high court action. Now, I can understand that some members say, well, we shouldn't really have to pay. But in a free market, especially in the entertainment business, how is anybody, yes, going to get work? I mean, everybody, unfortunately, has to fight for their jobs. It's a terrible situation. And indeed, aims, objects and outcomes, what happens if there's some restrictions placed on Spotlight? There's others, well, casting networks, who are part of Talent Systems, I believe, are one of them. There's all sorts of things. They've got memberships as well, and it's a 3-tier membership. Just like Spotlight kind of copied, did they? Just have a look at this. Now, does that mean if there are restrictions on Spotlight because of a tax on hope, won't those members who are really determined to be promoted worldwide go and join another worldwide directory? I don't know. I just pose the question. So what are the outcomes that Equity is looking for? Or is it a recruitment opportunity for those 30-odd thousand Spotlight members who are not currently Equity members? Of course, this is all a conspiracy theory, isn't it, Hilary? Mentioned by some of my equitable friends and some of you, my viewers. So I'll leave that thought with you. Who is going to have their pancakes tossed over this? Is it going to be Spotlight or is it going to be Equity? Do email in and let me know. Thank you. Spotlight or Equity, toss their pancakes.